Welcome back to the Consecrated podcast. Episode something.
We have no idea what episode we're at, but praise God that we have so many episodes that we lost count.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember when this was just a random idea that we had.
We'll call it episode August something.
Episode
Because I also don't know what day it is.
Episode August, even though this is probably going to come out. Oh no, it's going to come out in August. Hey, way to go. We are back and we are happy to be back. And this is another episode where Beef Stew is buzzing.
Buzzing Beef Stew. We got a BB.
Buzzing.
Gotta put a BB in a gun.
You're so cheesy. Hey, it's okay. You're hitting 30 soon. You have passes to be cheesy.
30 for 30. Okay.
30 for 30. But yes, so what's funny about this topic is we're talking about waiting today. And we were talking about this before the episode, and so it's going to be a repeat to you. But this episode, the Lord put it on my heart to talk about waiting, which is so funny because I knew that this was a topic that we were going to talk about eventually. Mm-hmm. And it was like in May or something, we were talking about potential topics to record for the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I said to you, I was like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to talk about waiting at some point, but not yet. And you were like, oh, so you're waiting to talk about waiting. And I was like, yeah.
I felt so good about that joke.
Yeah, it was good in the moment.
Thank you.
And what's so funny is literally today, I'm sitting in church and all of a sudden download on the podcast about waiting. And I'm like, I have one ear. What?
God couldn't wait to tell you about waiting. He had to tell you in the service. I'm so sorry. Oh, I just thought of that. Oh,
you know
man.
you know you're cheesy?
No.
Yeah. If you know, then it's like,
It's chill. Listen, I enjoy my jokes. Whatever.
God probably chuckled at you just then too. But yeah, God couldn't wait. You're right. He couldn't wait. And I'm sitting in a sermon. And granted, I'm not knocking off this man's sermon, but I'm sitting in a church service and he's talking about David. All of a sudden downloads about waiting. And so I'm like trying to be locked in and listen to this guy. And I'm also like trying to be locked in and listen to God. I'm like, my brain can only handle so much at one time. Oh, no. So anyway, I came back home and I have a long notes page, which I never, typically you're the one with notes. I just ramble. Yeah. But I wanted to write it all down because the intentionality of God, I just feel the intentionality of God over waiting and talking about waiting. And honestly, it's close to home because I feel like I'm in a period of waiting or I've been walking through a period of waiting. And so it kind of feels like what I received today was the culmination of what the Lord's kind of been teaching me throughout this season. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so let's just dive in. That's my
buzz.
Prelude
Give
of
us the buzz.
Waiting. Here's my buzz.
What's
that I'm going to try to get out in proper words, but I'm so excited. So we'll see if it happens. Okay. But basically, one of the first things I wanted to touch on is how seasons of waiting can actually be one of the most formative seasons if your heart is postured correctly. Mm-hmm. That I think it's so easy because as Christians, we can look at our life and see, that not much is changing around us. And you're like, you kind of get discouraged about it. And you're like, okay, I'm just waiting on God, I guess. I'm just waiting for either a promise or I'm waiting for something to happen or I'm waiting for something to change. And we can become apathetic towards waiting because we're like, well, I'm just waiting. But in reality, if our heart is postured in a different way, which I will get into, it can actually end up being one of the most formative seasons of your life. Yeah. And that you can walk out of it with your heart looking differently. And I really do believe that waiting seasons are just preparing, like preparatory. Yeah. Preparatory, like the grounds for the Lord to prepare your heart for the next season. And depending on how you wait is how your heart will come out of it. And so yes, waiting is so good and waiting can lead to so much change. Mm-hmm. How? First thing, waiting can develop something beautiful within you depending on what you are focusing on. Okay. So I'm going to take us to two little characters in the Bible.
In the weary Bible.
For people who know the jokes about my Bible, Fetty continuously roasts that my Bible is falling apart at the seams. And yes, she is, but it's okay.
Can they see that?
I love her.
I don't know if they can see that, but
Yeah, it's okay. I love her.
It's bad.
It's bad. It's falling apart at the seams. But anyway, I want to go to I'm going to go to Genesis. We're going to start off in Genesis talking about Abraham and Sarah. You know those people? Yeah. Two great people. Good people. And starting off in chapter 15, chapter 12. There's a lot of different scripture I'm going to go through. Some I'm going to skim, some I'm going to summarize, some I'm going to read. Come on. Basically, chapter 12, it starts off, and this is the first time that we see God promise Abraham that he's going to be a father of many nations. I'm going to make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And it says, just to take note, that he was 75 years old when he left. When this is when the Lord called him to leave from his country, to leave his father's household, and to go.
What verse is the age?
I'm in chapter 12.
Verse.
And then in his age, it's in verse 4. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out, when he left his...
Okay.
He was an unk. He's traveling as an unk. But basically, in this, if we read this passage, if you read it in totality, God doesn't mention Isaac yet. He doesn't mention a how. He doesn't say how this promise is going to be fulfilled. He doesn't say when he's going to have a child. He just makes a promise with him, and he tells Abraham to go out. Gives him instructions. At this point, it's still Abram, and he obeys. Okay. He gives up everything, and he follows the Lord. Okay. So we meet, what I'm trying to get to is the point of, so he gets the promise, and Abraham and Sarah are in waiting, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of stories in between, and then you get to chapter 16, Genesis chapter 16. And you see, oh no, Sarah's weary in her waiting.
Not Sarai.
Sarai, not Sarah yet, is weary in her waiting. She, if you look in her waiting, becomes so focused on her lack and so focused on the lack of the promise of the Lord not fulfilling her promise yet, that she decides to take matters into her own hands. And she tells Abraham to have a daughter. Not a daughter. That was just absolutely wrong. She tells Abraham to have a child with their servant. And they have a child, and she gets bitter. She gets mad. She's like, why did I do that? And it was a byproduct of her doubting the Lord's timing and getting weary in her waiting. Okay. Right? And, I love that the Lord inserted this. I feel like it's such a good and tangible example to look at of what can happen if you get weary in your waiting and if you try to take matters into your own hands, that the fruit of it is it's not life. I mean, it was life in the sense of Ishmael, but she got weary in her waiting, was focusing on the lack of the fulfillment of her promise, right? Decided to do something in her own volition. And if anything, she ended up bitter and frustrated because she was trying to step into something outside of her time, outside of her season, and she got weary in her waiting. So we see she responds to waiting. Her heart posture is looking at her lack. It's not looking at the nature of God, and she creates something out of its season, out of its timing, right? Okay. So then, I added another point right here. Seasons of waiting can be incredibly fruitful if you lean into it. Waiting can put you face to face with unhealthy beliefs that have been tucked away in your heart. So I came to that point because, like I said, I have been in a season of waiting, and I've noticed in this season which we talked about a couple podcast episodes back, of how sometimes Jesus will come and confront unhealthy beliefs that you have in your heart, right? And if you see in this chapter, Sarah has an unhealthy belief that the Lord will not provide, that he will not be faithful to his promise. In Luke 6:45, it says, "For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." And what does Sarah's mouth speak? It says, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go and sleep with my slaves. Perhaps I can build a family through her." So her mouth is very much speaking that her heart does not have a belief that the Lord will come through in his promise and will provide for her. Again, they don't know the how yet. It hasn't been communicated that Isaac is going to be birthed. They don't know the how of how it's going to happen, but she gets weary in her waiting, has a belief system that God will not come through for her. And so she needs to take matter into her own hands. And so she does it, ends up being bitter. Yeah. So that's one thing that as I was meditating on waiting, of how if you are leaning into it correctly as well, it can also be a point where the Lord can meet you in your waiting, and he can teach you certain heart postures that you have that aren't necessarily healthy. Sarah, I don't think Sarah would have experienced or would have learned that she has an unhealthy heart posture towards the Lord and her lack of belief in her faithfulness unless she acted out, had this whole thing happened, and then got bitter and realized, oh, I didn't believe that the Lord was going to come through for me. So that's why I acted like that. And that all was a fruit of her season of waiting. That all came out because she was in waiting, right? So Sarah doubted the nature of God and that he is faithful to his promises and that he's on time, took matters into her own hands. Then if we keep going, we finally, and then you go to Genesis chapter 17. We finally...
Wait, can I ask one thing here?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your buzz.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
The point when she comes to Abram and says, the God isn't preventing me from bearing children. Right after that, it says, and Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So Abram was the one that had received the promise. I assume he had communicated the promise with his wife. Because it implicates her, obviously.
She was a big part.
She got something to do with that. So at least hopefully, and maybe, the lesson, maybe the things that we're going to get into is going to address this in a way, but have you thought at all about Abram's role because you're talking about in her heart, the treasures of her heart display that the things that are in her heart display that she has bad beliefs. She's believing lies about the character of God. Have you thought at all about what's going on with Abram? Okay.
We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
How would you go?
Well, I guess, okay. I eventually... Yes. So I mainly was thinking about the heart of Sarah, but it's funny how in this whole process, his heart, like, what do we know Abraham as now? The father of faith. Yeah. Which here, and even as you just said, I wouldn't say that's a father of faith. Like in his reaction to Sarah and being like, yeah, I guess I'll just go have a child with this other girl. Yeah. He isn't displayed as a father of faith. But
he also doesn't necessarily know, to your point, how exactly God's going to fulfill the promise.
Yes.
So he maybe hears from Sarah and thinks, well,
this has to be how it's going to happen.
I guess we're just going to be having kids this way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Which, God didn't tell them to do that.
He didn't tell them.
That was a byproduct of them just getting weary as they were waiting. They were getting tired of like, okay, you said this was going to happen. I'm 75. Yeah. At this point, I don't know how old he is here. I was trying to find an age, couldn't find it. But
so the point is that they took matters into their own hands.
Yes.
Because you don't, like, God says something, you don't know exactly how it's going to happen.
Yes.
You're supposed to be waiting.
Yes.
Instead of waiting, you jump in and try to figure it out yourself.
Yes. Okay. And she created Ishmael.
Yeah.
And Ishmael is literally just a byproduct of you giving into the voice of Sarah, giving into the voice of fear and believing that the Lord has forgotten about her, that he's not on time, and that he can't do something supernatural with her body because she's pushing 80.
Yeah.
And created an Ishmael.
Okay.
And it's just kind of scary to think about that because God is loving and we have free will. Yeah. We have so much access to creating Ishmaels in our life if we want, out of the Lord's timing, it's something we fully can do. Yeah. It's an option. It's an option.
Yeah.
Which is a little like scary. You're like, oh dang, like I really do have that much power if I decide to give into the voice of fear and decide that I'm not going to wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
But what I was going to talk about in terms of the heart of Abraham was how throughout this process, we see waiting and then the fulfillment of his promise and then the potential sacrifice of his promise is what formed Abraham to now be the father of faith.
Right.
Like it was in this process of waiting and in this process of wrestling with the Lord, of creating Ishmaels and messing up here and there, and then getting the promise and realizing that the Lord's the reward and not this sacrifice, and then being like, okay, I'll sacrifice my promise even though you said that I'm going to have it.
Right.
And this whole process, which is waiting in Christian terms, is what now created him to be known as the father of faith. And how his heart changed so much. So it wasn't until he was 99 years old, which it says in chapter 17, it wasn't until he was 99 years old that God finally said it was going to be that Sarai herself will bear a child. It's in verse 17. And it's funny because when God says, so I'm gonna read.
Interesting.
I didn't realize that Abraham laughed. We always talk about that it was just Sarah who laughed, but I'm skipping ahead. So let me read. It says, God also, from 15, chapter 17, verse 15, it says, God also said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Abraham fell face down. He laughed, and he said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing.
Okay, there's one that they came up with. Said, here's an option.
Yeah.
You want to go with this one?
I know you're God.
Yeah.
And I know that you are saying that in my old age I'm going to have a kid.
Yeah.
But just in case...
You wanted a backup.
Yeah.
We got Ishmael.
Yeah. Just in case you can't do this all.
Yeah.
I got a plan B for you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't trust you for plan A. So just in case you don't trust yourself for plan A, I got a plan B for you. And it's funny when I was reading this is that I always looked at Sarah because if we read further, 3 visitors come and visit them, right? And then they host him, and Sarah's in the tent preparing. And then while she's in the tent preparing, one of them says in verse 10, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son.
Right.
And Sarah in the tent hears this and she laughs.
Right.
And I feel like we always talk about Sarah laughing.
Right.
But then I read this today and I was like, hold up, Abraham laughed
both,
too.
Yeah.
They both laughed, they both had this posture of, but we're old. Like, how is that going to happen?
And he names him Isaac, which means he laughs.
Yes.
He laughs.
He.
Yeah.
Meaning Abraham.
It just means he laughs. So I guess that would be Abraham. Yeah.
Which is just funny that so she waits. It doesn't say how old Sarah is, but Abraham is 99 years old when he gets his promise, right? So let's say she's pushing 100 too. Mm-hmm. And she's waited almost 100 years for the fulfillment of her promise. She probably watched her friends have kids.
What do you mean over 100 years? She
waited about 100 years.
So you're saying like from birth?
From birth.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's say 50 years.
Okay.
She waited 50. We don't know how long. She waited a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. She waited a long time for the fulfillment of this promise. She watched her friends have kids. She, and then all of a sudden she's in her 70s and God comes to her husband and says, you'll be a father of many nations. She doesn't know how. She tries taking it into her own hand. Like it's a long time coming.
Right.
Long time waiting, long time of pain. And then also for Abraham, long time coming. Right. He sat on this promise for, what's 99 minus 75? 15 years? 14 years? No, 24 years? It's okay, we're getting there. He sat on this promise for what, 24 years, right? Mm-hmm. He was, so 24 years of waiting. Mm-hmm. And I
maybe believing during that time that Ishmael was the one, by the way. Because he offers in this passage, he says Ishmael.
Yes.
So it could be during that time. Okay.
Yes. Going. Yes. And then, but the thing is, I love that they both laughed, and I love that we can see the posture of them laughing, and we see their heart posture to the Lord and promises and Him doing the supernatural. Right. Because we always tend to talk about the second half of the story. Like we always talk about how the promise was fulfilled, and then he had Isaac, and then he gave the sacrifice, and we're like, wow, like look at Abraham. He sacrificed Isaac when really his confidence to getting to the point of sacrificing Isaac was built in this
during
season.
a period where he laughed.
Yes. during a period where the Lord came to him.
24-year period.
Yes, where the Lord came to him and said, "In your old age, I'm going to give you a son."
Yeah.
And he laughed.
And he struggled to believe at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And after the season of waiting, after the fulfillment of the promise, he gets the promise. His heart had molded and changed in such a way where when God had come to him and given him his promise, he was okay to quickly pick it up and say, "Okay, I'm going to give it to you."
Yeah.
Because he learned something about the nature of God in that waiting, where he said, "My own striving won't, but God can do something." And then in Hebrews 11, it says, it's Hebrews 11:17. Let's go to that real quick.
Hebrews
11:17. It says, "By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son. Even though God had said to him, 'It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned,' Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so in a matter of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead." And let's just look at the before and after of Abraham's heart, right? The before the promise, before the fulfillment of the promise, he's in the season of waiting.
Yeah.
His heart posture is, God comes to him, says, "I have a promise for you, and I'm going to give you a son." And his heart posture is, "How? I'm old. I'm going to laugh." Then season of waiting ends, fulfillment of the promise, his promise comes. God comes to him and says, "Sacrifice your son." And rather than doubting and saying, "How?" like he said earlier,
Before.
he said, "Oh, I have met and faced this God that could do the supernatural. So I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice this son that he gave me because I have met something about the nature of God that gives me confidence to stand here and do that he's commanded me to do."
Believing that he could raise him from the
Believing that he could raise him from the dead.
dead.
So the point I'm trying to get to is that the fruit of waiting seasons, though things may not be changing a lot around you, the fruit inside of someone, if you're not apathetic with waiting, but you are intentional with waiting, can be abundant, can change the posture and how you approach things. And I wholeheartedly believe that God is intentional in everything he does. He's intentional with his timing. He's intentional with everything. Even if we look at, we're going to jump again. If we look at the story of John the Baptist about to be born in Luke 1. Also, do you have anything to add? I'm buzzing, sorry.
Nope, keep buzzing.
Okay. So we go to Luke chapter 1. This is just another thing that I'm gonna skim, but it's a bit of a long story, but you should read the whole thing. Basically, we meet Zachariah and Elizabeth, the mom and the dad of John the Baptist. And this is a very similar story. They are two people who are old in age, who want to have a child, haven't been able to have a child. They're old in age. And while Zachariah is serving in the temple, an angel of the Lord appears to him. And I'm just going to read from verse 13. It says, chapter 1, verse 13. It says, "But the angel said to him, 'Do not be afraid, Zachariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will call him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. He will bring back many of the people of Israel to the Lord their God. He will go on before the Lord in the spirit and the power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord.'" And then if you go on to read, the first thing he says is how. He doubts, just like Abraham. And he says, "I am an old man and my wife is well along in her years." And I bring this up to talk about the intentionality of God's timing, because if we keep reading in verse 19, it says, "The angel said to him, 'I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you the good news. And now you will be silent and not speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointed time.'" And I bring about this story because this is a similar story, a whole thing of parents being old, waiting on a kid, waiting on a promise. and their promise not being fulfilled, and how clear of an example of the intentionality of God and his timing that John the Baptist had to be born when he did, to fulfill the prophets, to fulfill old things, to prepare the way for Jesus. Like the Lord is a God who sees the whole story. And I think in waiting, sometimes we can become so focused on our timeline, okay, I'm getting pretty old. It looks like the people around me are having kids. I want to have kids. We've become so focused on our singular timeline when the Lord is bigger than that and sees more. And John the Baptist needed to be born at the time that he was born. And to Elizabeth and Zachariah at the time did not make any sense. Why do we have to wait? We want to have kids. I'm adding to make them more personable. Our friends around us are having kids. I want to have kids. They're old in age. And God, in his intentionality of timing, sends John the Baptist at the exact time. Could not have been born any later, could not have born any earlier because of the destiny on his life. And I think the same is to be said with the promises that are on our life, that he is so intentional with his timing, so intentional with his timing. And though we can't see why we have to wait, though we can't see how long we have to wait, the Lord is intentional with his timing. And John the Baptist, our quote unquote John the Baptist, has to come at an appointed time. And we can take the posture of the Israelites and we can grumble our way there, grumble our way to the promise, or we can change our heart posture and allow the Lord to mend and work on our hearts in the process so that we can walk out more confident in his nature, more confident in who he's created in us, and work out unhealthy beliefs that are planted in our heart in the process. Because if you lean into the ground of waiting, it is fertile land. It is fertile ground. There is so much life that can be found in the waiting. And I think one thing that helped me wait is believing that God is intentional with his timing. Just as he is intentional with John the Baptist, he's just as intentional with me, right? He is the same God as he was with John the Baptist as he is with me. So if he's intentional with the birth of John the Baptist that clearly, he's just as intentional with timing as he is with me. And so, so there's in waiting, I think there's a lot of things that can come up emotionally. I think you can feel this temptation to kind of become a victim to waiting, you know, to be like, oh, like nothing's changing around me, God. And I've been waiting for this for so long and you haven't given it to me. And I get it. Trust me. It can be a hard process, but I have started to look at waiting as an invitation for the Lord to plant in fertile ground, because it is waiting is fertile ground. And it is such a time where you can choose to give into your heart and your emotions and what they're telling you, or you can allow it to shift your heart and shift the way that you see the Lord. And once you start focusing on the Lord in season of waiting, it's like all of a sudden trees are blossoming all around you. And while again, nothing may be changing on the outside, in the inside, there's an absolute garden in bloom. So that when you do finally step into your promised land, you can look back and be like, oh, I didn't grumble my way here, but I actually soiled the ground that's fertile, and that's why I'm stepping into this promised land with a full garden. Wow. And one person who waits so well.
Tell me.
David. I love my man David.
Maybe that's why God waited to tell you until that sermon.
Why?
Because wasn't it about David?
He's talking about David.
He's talking about David.
Yeah.
He's like,
and David was the last piece. I had everybody else. This whole season I've been thinking about, like, I don't want to grumble into the promised land. I don't want to create Ishmaels. Like, I will focus, right? And then it wasn't until he was talking about David today that it hit me of, wow, David waited so well. Okay, so let's go to David. Sorry, do you have anything to add?
Take us there. Nope.
Nothing to add. I'm going so fast. I'm so sorry.
No, please. This is high up.
Okay.
Please keep us in.
So 1 Samuel, let's get us there. 1 Samuel, let's start on chapter 16.
Oh, perfect.
Is that what you flipped to? So 1 Samuel chapter 16. This is when David gets anointed as king. I'm going to just do a quick little summary. Actually, no, I'll read this. I've been summarizing a lot. Okay, so let's start from let's start from verse 7, chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, which he's talking about one of David's brothers, yes. For I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Anibayab.
Good.
You know, I used to always be so sad about my name, about how people would like butcher my name.
I think that one's got to be
Abinadab.
Yeah.
I've been a dab.
No, that's not right.
Okay, then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, the Lord has not chosen this one either. Sorry, I should have added. So the part that we jumped into is Samuel, as a prophet, went to Jesse's house because God told him to, and said, let me see your sons. One of your sons needs to be anointed kings. So all of these sons are being put out in front of him. Let's continue to read. Jesse then had Shammah pass by. Then Samuel said, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. But Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen these. So he asked Jesse, are these all the sons you have? There is still the youngest, Jesse answered. He is tending the sheep. Samuel said, send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives. For he sent for him and had brought him in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, rise and anoint him. This is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Samuel then went to Ramah. Okay, so David just gets anointed, right? You would think this prophet gets sent to your house. You're just this little boy tending sheep. This prophet gets sent to your house. And you're told you're going to become king, right? You would think the next thing is like, all right, give me a kingdom then. You know, like, let me go ahead and lead. Let me do my thing. This prophet said I'm a king. Let me go be a king then, right? Yeah. But it's crazy because if you keep reading, so basically then Saul has an evil spirit start tormenting him. And David is the answer to this evil spirit. David can play a lyre, which then Lyre, not liar, like you're lying. Anyway, he plays this and that helps Saul with the spirit that's tormenting him. So rather than going and ruling a kingdom, David balances back and forth between shepherding his sheep and playing the lyre for Saul. And that's all he does for a period of time. Doesn't go and serve a kingdom, doesn't, is just doing his mundane tasks, right? Then chapter 17, big old chapter. We love this chapter in Sunday school when we were growing up. His life doesn't dramatically change. He's going through the motions, tending sheep, playing the lyre. And in verse, I think it's 15. Oh, verse 15 is where it says, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend to his father's sheep at Bethlehem. So his three oldest brothers were following Saul and they were fighting. This is when they were confronted by the Philistines and Goliath. And Goliath is taunting this army. He's like, ain't none of y'all can face me. Ain't none of y'all can kill me. All y'all are scared. And it's true. No one's trying to face him. He's this giant man who's really scary, right? So David's tending sheep. His dad says, hey, go bring bread to your brothers who are in camp. So David goes, brings bread to his brothers who are at camp, and while he's there, he's like, yo, what's going on? What's happening? And they tell him about Goliath, which at first it says a couple people ignore him, which I'm like, bro, this is like, he's trying to solve your problems. Right. But anyway, they don't know that though. They're like, you're little, you're the youngest. You're what small. Are you going to do for us? Little boy. Judging by outward appearance, unlike God. Right. So then when he finds out what's happening, David decides to go to Saul because he has this confidence in him. And so I'm going to read from verse 34. He says, but David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. Crazy imagery. Think about that for a second. That's crazy imagery. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine.
Come on.
So what I wanted to point out in this is when David was in the field, he was in waiting. Yes. And in his waiting, as he was tending to his sheep, lions and bears were coming. And David, being his heart open, being his posture towards the Lord in his waiting, took these examples of conquering the lion, conquering the bear, as personal, like, things that shifted his heart, so that he could confidently stand in front of a Philistine and say, the Lord who has rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine. In his season of waiting, he didn't take the lions and the bears and the little things around him for granted, but they built a confidence in him that helped him stand tall in front of Goliath when this time did come. This is a prime example of someone whose heart was tender in waiting, and when things were coming to him and presenting to him, those shifted beliefs in him and built an understanding of the nature of God while he was in waiting, so that when the bigger thing did come, he could stand up confidently in front of Goliath and say, I am going to kill you with a sling.
You know what's also so funny about this? He probably had no idea while facing a lion and a bear that it had anything to do with his ascent, basically.
Yes.
Within the ranks of the army because after this, after he destroys Goliath, he begins to basically serve in a greater capacity. You have David beginning to serve. He rises through the ranks of the army, and then you have people beginning to sing that Saul has struck his thousands and David his 10,000s. But his first military victory, his moment of entry into any realm of influence within the army, and then from there, or the military, and then from there, the rest of Israel, was a victory against a giant, which he built confidence for by facing animals in the wilderness while tending to sheep.
Yes.
He may not have known that Goliath, he likely did not know that Goliath was going to be his entry. He probably didn't even know Goliath at the time. But these experiences on the back hills of Dad's farm, taking care of his sheep, tending to the sheep, end up being what promotes him in confidence to say that no, this uncircumcised Philistine does not stand a chance against me, because I've taken down the lion and I've taken down the bear, and I didn't know this was coming, but it's here now, and I know how God will handle it because of what he's handled the stuff. How he handles stuff
exactly how he protected me before this. And what's crazy is he at this point was already anointed king, right? His heart posture towards the lions and the bears could have been in grumbling, like the Israelites were in grumbling of, why am I even here taking care of these sheep, killing lions? Now
I'm out here like
his heart posture could have been grumbling. But very clearly from the response that he has about going and attacking a Philistine, shows that his heart posture wasn't in grumbling in that season. Even though the Lord had promised him something big, he was still he was faithful to what was in front of him, and he was still tending to it. His heart was still humble to the Lord, and he wasn't grumbling. And look at the fruit of what came out of that season.
And he was saving individual sheep from predators.
Faithfully. Wasn't grumbling. And then was able to then go and stand in front of a giant.
So that was a man that understood the waiting season.
Yes. That was a man who understood the waiting season and how to do it well. And how in waiting, if you are keeping your heart tender towards God, everything is intentional. The lion, the bear, everything is intentional in the waiting and is preparing you. And you can choose to have a heart posture of grumbling, and it'll probably add 40 years to your wandering like the Israelites, or
thoroughly be where you're at.
And acknowledge that you are in a fertile season. Although it may not look like it around you, internally, waiting can be one of the most fertile seasons if you are hand in hand with the gardener. If you are hand in hand with the gardener, you will walk out of this season differently. Even thinking about this season for myself, I feel my heart is different. I feel like I'm walking out of this season differently because things were tended to, and I allowed the Lord to tend to certain things in me, even though I was frustrated that nothing was changing within externally. Everything was changing internally, which is so much more worth it, you know? And what's crazy about David is he goes into another season of waiting to see the fulfillment of his promise as king. His waiting is a little harder this time because he's running for his life.
Yeah.
And he's getting chased.
Right.
And you can see his process of waiting all throughout the Psalms,
Right.
where he's, he's frustrated at certain points, he's in pain at certain points, but at the end he's like blessing the Lord. Mm-hmm. But a man who learned that regardless of the season, the main thing that matters is this. Psalm 27, verse 4. One thing I ask of the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and gaze on the beauty of the Lord and seek him in his temple. For in my day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling, and he will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon the rock. The lions and the bears were even preparing him for being on the run from Saul. If you think about it, it was preparing his heart from being on the run from Saul. He found confidence in the Lord protecting him. And in that season of waiting, developed a belief that the Lord will protect him from lions and bears.
So he chased down a lion, yeah. And he chased down a bear.
So he chased them down.
Yeah.
Even to when the point of when he's getting chased down, continued that confidence. And in that whole process, his heart was devoted and decided that one thing I ask of the Lord. This only do I seek. This only that matters. It's just dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Whether I'm tending to sheep, or whether I'm getting chased down, or whether I'm king of it all. Oh, that's it. Thank you, though. So, yes, that was my buzz that that the Lord was talking to me about. And I felt so stirred to talk to whoever this is for, because I understand, I know seasons of waiting can be really, really hard. I encourage you, if you are in a season of waiting, to go back to those examples and allow the Lord to personally minister to you. That's just what I got. But there's so many more things that, the Holy Spirit could point out to you in these prime examples of people who are waiting. But if I could give any encouragement to anybody who is waiting, it would be to lean in to the Lord in waiting. Yeah. Because if you choose to be a victim to the season, if you choose to say, woe is I'm waiting, none of my dreams are coming true, you can definitely do that. Or a more life-giving alternative is to not be a victim of the season, to lean in to the Lord and remember that this can actually be incredibly fertile ground, that the heart posture that you have in this season could set you up for your next season. Yeah. And what I kept telling myself was the Israelites grumbled their way to the promised land. Do I want to be someone who grumbles my way into the promised land? Yeah. Because what if you're waiting for, like Abraham, what if you're waiting for 24 years? I don't want to be grumbling for 24 years, Yeah.
It seems like two major keys, at least from what you're saying, are standing out to me. The one is the thing that you're waiting for isn't really the thing that's going to make you happy anyways. Sit and look upon the beauty of the Lord and inquire in his temple and enjoy him the way that David did. He was probably chomping at the bit. At least we don't see that at all throughout his story. Yes. To assume the throne. Like he just is enjoying God and waiting for him to do what he said he would do, likely believing that everything that God said would come to pass. Yes. So that's one. But the second key is he was diligent in his waiting. Yes. Because probably he believed. Either he just was faithful and he was excellent and he just believed, or he believed that what you said is true. He was in a period that was preparatory for where he was going. Mm-hmm. Therefore, everything that was intentionally placed in his life during that period of his life, he diligently attended to, such as if a predator, like I said, comes and takes a single sheep from a flock of sheep, he says, I am going to go and rescue that one sheep. Who knows if Jesse, his dad, ever would have noticed that a single sheep was gone. And maybe his dad might not have said, hey, you should go chase down that lion and rescue the sheep from the mouth of the lion, right? But he said, no, I'm going to diligently and thoroughly be here, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to be doing here. and faithfully fulfills all that he's asked to do during this period of waiting, which is preparatory, though he may not know exactly how, for where he's going. And because he was fully present and thoroughly engaged in the season that God had him in, which was leading up to the season of actually tending to the flock of Israel, the moment came for him to be promoted, and he was ready.
Yeah.
Now, what would have happened if you were not thoroughly engaged during the period of waiting?
Would it have been longer?
Would he have had a Goliath moment? Goliath may have come at the same time he actually came. David comes, he delivers food. They're like, oh, there's this dude, he's mocking us. And David might have been like, ooh, yep, he looks pretty big.
And then went back. Yeah.
But he was faithful with what? The sheep.
Little, yeah. And it shifted his heart. Which the shift in his heart then led to the shift to the world around him. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
This is why he said, I'm not like man. I don't look at the outward appearance.
Yeah.
But I look at the heart. Because God had observed, how does David behave? You know, he's on the back hills, and he's like, let me watch this David. You know, how is this David going to care for these sheep over here? He's faithful.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, and I mean, even David said this in Psalm 27, it gets to a point where I feel like if you once you've talked about this, when you're so deeply caught up in this dance with the Lord, where you're wrapped up in affection for him, when you get to a point of waiting where the prize doesn't become this new season anymore.
Or the promise.
The promise, the fulfillment of your promise doesn't become the prize.
Yeah.
Anymore.
No.
Because once you've become so caught up in clinging to the Lord and being with him in this season, he becomes the prize. And none of it, like, you go from having a heart posture of like, oh, like, when is this going to change? I want a new season. I want things to change around me, to, oh, you're the prize and you can actually give me nothing else. And I will be satisfied as long as I have more of you, because you are the prize. It's not about my season changing. It's not about me getting the promotion that I want. You get so caught up in this affection for him that it, like, even without realizing it, your focus shifts.
Right.
And then you're actually not waiting anymore.
Right.
You're just caught up in affection.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just an additive.
Yeah.
Isaac was an additive. He was ready to just kill him again, you know?
Yeah.
It just becomes this additive where you're so caught up in the Lord that it's not really even waiting anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, you just realize that the point of it all, the prize of it all, to gaze upon his beauty all the days of your life.
Yeah.
That's the point of it all.
Yeah.
Not you finally getting the job that you wanted or anything.
Yeah.
And that happens in waiting if you let it. What an invitation. I was even thinking, what a gift that I had a season where it was so still and it was so quiet. And I didn't feel like I had much because I had given much. And what a gift that I could look at my season and I could come to this realization of, oh, nothing else matters. In the emptiness and in the waiting, that I could get to a point in realizing nothing else really matters. Yeah. Nothing else really is the prize. Yeah. I could go here or there. I could lose this or that. And nothing else compares. That's not the prize. Yeah. It's all nothing. It's all meaningless, like Solomon says. Yeah. A man who had everything, all the wisdom, all the splendor, all the riches, everything. Yeah. And said, it's meaningless. Yeah. It's vain.
Though you remain in the place of faith, isn't it? Like, you continue to believe that what he said would happen. Yeah. But you're not like...
But it's different. Yeah. You have faith of, okay, if God, you have faith of, yes, God will do this for me. Yeah. Like, for example, if I look at my heart, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I wholeheartedly believe, yes, God will do it for me. But before it was, oh, I need God to do this for me. Yeah. I need it to change. It's now, I love you, Lord, and I'm caught up. Thank you for what I have. And yes, you will do this for me, but this isn't everything that I thought it was going to be. Bullet. Yeah. Yes. It's not all I thought it was going to be. Yeah. Actually finding you in the process was what I needed. Yeah. And that's what the gift of what waiting can be.
Come on.
So wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord.
You'll pray for us?
Yeah, I'll pray.
Send us off. Help us, God.
I will pray.
Help us, God.
I will read this verse first and then I'll pray. Isaiah 49:23. Then you will know that I am the Lord. Those who put their hope in me will not be put to shame.
Come on.
Wait on the Lord. Okay, I'm going to pray. Jesus, we love you. Yes, we love you, Lord. Thank you for examples in the Bible to look to in our season of waiting. Thank you for people like David and Sarah and Abraham. Thank you for people like John the Baptist, for people that remind us that your timing is intentional. And God, I pray that for every listener that is in waiting right now, that feels their heart stirred by what you're talking about, I pray that they would feel your nearness right now, ever so closely. Would they feel your comfort? Would they feel your affection? And God, would you pull us into the place that David got to, where he could say, one thing that I ask of the Lord, one thing do I seek. God, would you help our hearts get to that point? Would you teach our hearts that you are the prize, that you are everything, that whatever can come or go, you are everything. I thank you for seasons of waiting. I thank you for the people who are in waiting. God, I pray for them to feel encouraged, for a fresh wind of encouragement to come into their spirit, into their heart. And would you remind them that they are not forgotten, that you have not forgotten about them, that they are exactly where they need to be. I thank you that you are intentional with your timing, that your timing is perfect, that your plans for us are perfect, that they're better than we could ever ask or imagine. Would you help us trust that? Yes, God. Thank you for seasons of waiting. Thank you for teaching us through them. We love you so much. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
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 Wait on the Lord.
Amen. Man, I'm glad he was buzzing. And I'm glad he had you wait for the wait. That was worth the wait.
I'm glad he had me wait. And may we say that at the end of all of our waiting seasons, that we can confidently say, I'm glad he had me wait.
Yeah.
So we love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being along on my Buzzing Beef Dude TED Talk. I don't know how I feel about the whole having it on the notes thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, next time we'll just have it not walk.
No, next time I just won't write it down and we'll just press record and it'll go and just, yeah.
Yeah, we also do that. Unless it's in church, then we can't do that.
Yeah, true. I get up on stage. I'm like, hold on. I know you have a point, but I really need to write this down.
Don't forget what you were going to say.
Don't forget what you're saying. Okay. We love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Bye.